why leadership still matters in 2025. Let's start with the basics. I'm Si, and this is Cardiff City World. This is Rebuilding Cardiff City. This is a series where we are literally looking at how the club can rebuild itself from the ground up, from top down to the bottom. This is episode 7, as I say, and we've gone through all different elements from finances to football operations, and tonight we're talking about leadership. Why does leadership matter? Especially now in an era of GPS vests, data analysts and tactical shape-shifting. But here's the truth. You cannot win promotion, you cannot survive relegation or build a culture with talent alone. You need voices, you need leadership. People who step up when it's not going your way. I don't just mean captains, I mean the guys that are the glue, the fire starters, the standard bearers. Leadership in football today means helping young players settle, guiding them through their first mistakes, setting the tone in training every day, intensity, effort, no excuses. But it can also be rallying during games after a dodgy referee call, a sloppy goal, a mistake. It's carrying that pressure in front of 20,000 fans week in, week out, after a bad performance, after a loss. It's being an extension of the manager, especially under someone like Brian Barry Murphy, who's bringing tactical clarity, he's bringing mental sharpness, but most of all he's bringing standards and a professionalism that we've lacked for a while. You can have all the talent in the world, but if no one's driving the bus, you ain't going nowhere. What do leaders do on the pitch? I mean, let's talk specifics, right? On the pitch, leaders, they talk constantly. They, especially centre-backs, midfielders, constantly organising, constantly talking. They're going to be organising the shape. They're going to be talking or instructing pressing triggers, second balls, set-piece duties. They're going to manage the ref. That's something someone like a Darren Pearce made an absolute art form of. Sometimes screaming at the ref isn't the way to go. Maybe speak to him, have a conversation, be his mate for 90 minutes. That can help. These are all things that leaders do. Make the moment decisions. What does that mean? Well, that can be slowing the tempo when it's getting chaotic. That can be stepping up under pressure, penalties, last-ditch blocks, injury time headers. It's more than shouting. It's knowing. Knowing when to drop 5 yards, when to hold, when to jump, when to go, when to press, when to drop. Think of Sol Bamba, right? Was he technically perfect? No. But would you trust him to defend your box until the 97th minute of a game? Absolutely. Let's look off the pitch. What do leaders do off the pitch? And look, the stuff you don't see on the analysis, these websites, the stats, the dashboards, all this different stuff, right? Off the pitch, leaders are massive, huge, and I think this is something we've hugely been lacking. You got to protect the younger lads. Someone who springs to mind with that is Sean Morrison. Did a great job of helping academy kids settle into the first team when they were coming training, things like that. It's maintaining dressing room standards, whether that's lateness, a dress code, recovery, speaking to the fans, fronting up after bad results. In my opinion, the only one who really did this last year was Callum O'Dowda, who most likely won't be at the club at the start of the season. But they also bridge the gap between the manager and the players. It could be relaying messages, and it could be explaining decisions. It could be if someone's not happy or there's a bit of an issue, being the bridge between the coaching staff and the playing squad. Driving the standards in the gym, in the canteen, the hotel before games. I think it was Roy Keane who'd said the hardest part of being a captain wasn't actually the match day. It was Monday to Friday, the week before a game. Great leaders. Let's look at some past leaders at Cardiff City and who got it right. And these are real examples of real leadership. Graham Kavanagh. legend. The heartbeat of that early 2000 team for Cardiff. He set the tone with his professionalism. He captained us to promotion and helped us transition from the lower leagues to being championship contenders. He led with his application. He led with his quality. He led with his attitude and the way he went about his business 24/7. He was the manager's guy. He was the bridge between the manager and the playing staff. He got all the players on side, but he looked after those players. Darren Pearce, old school, vocal, commanding. His leadership, it wasn't subtle by any means. It was loud, it was dominant, it was in your face, but it was exactly what Cardiff City needed at the time. He took responsibility by taking the penalties. He led every single game by example. Did he have some moments of the red mist or whatever, red cards? Of course he did. Did he fall out with Dave Jones at times? Yes. Only because he cared. He was an old school leader and someone that we desperately could do with in that playing squad at the moment, that type of personality. Sol Bamba, I think he was a bit of an emotional leader. He led with his heart, he played with his heart on his sleeve, never lost his tactical discipline. And think of how many young centre-backs learned from watching his career and watching him play and lead his teams. Whether it was Leeds, it was Cardiff or anybody else, this man was a born leader. And make no mistake that within days of him coming in, Neil Warnock had him in that leadership group because of how good he was. And he could bring players and people together. He was a special, special guy, but a special, special leader. Sean Morrison, years as captain, loves the club, set the example off the pitch as well as on it. He spoke like a manager even before he finished playing. He was someone who typified the standards that should be expected at Cardiff City. Professional, leadership, did his job individually, helped others to do their job, and he was absolutely fundamental to that side. Again, part of that special leadership group with the likes of Sol Bamba and others. These are the types of characters that you need. Stephen McPhail, a slightly different one, you know. Quiet, calm, but classy. And when you've got someone like that in the midfield, never panics, that's infectious. That calmness and that composure, that is infectious to others, especially younger players. And look, I could go on forever and ever. Let's not forget Mark Hudson, what an organiser, a true professional. And if you go back and watch my interview with him on Acepodcastnation, I think it was the first one I did with him in the studio. Some of the things he used to talk about what he used to do for new players, like what a gent, an absolute leader. Just made sure that every member of that playing squad was as okay as they could be off the pitch, so that they could do their job on a daily basis. Aaron Gunnarsson, a warrior, an engine on him like no other. And maybe I think that's what we need, is we need a warrior in that midfield area. But even Peter Whittingham, similar to Stephen McPhail, a leader in the way he executed his own game, led by example, and that composure and that calmness in the chaos of a football match just was just supremely calm, led by example. And again, not someone who you'd maybe put in the leadership category from like the shouting and screaming and the vocal leader side of things, but was absolutely a leader in that dressing room and on that football pitch. Every good Cardiff side has had 2 or 3 of these players at a minimum. Let's look at the stats behind the leaderships. Let's jump into the data, right? Over the last few seasons, especially 2022 to 2025, our squad's average age has dropped significantly without really replacing that experience. Now, I don't think it's a bad thing that our average age has dropped. I think the way football is going, squads are getting younger, and fundamentally we need to lower the average age of the squad. So that's good. But we also need to have experience in the right areas, But most of all, we need leaders. Leaders don't have to be 30. Leaders can be 19, 20 if they have the right characteristics and the right personality and the right mentality. But let's look at it. According to Transfer Market, in 2021, Cardiff had 7 players over the age of 29 regularly starting. But in 2024-25, that number had dropped to just 2. None of them were natural vocal leaders. So it's not an issue that 2 of the players were, 29 or over. Or I think that's wrong, because I'm not sure on Callum O'Dowda's age, but the point stands, we've got only a few at that sort of 29, 30 and upwards. And it's not the age to me, it's the characteristics. We need leaders. And I don't think there's any natural born leaders in that group, or certainly not many vocal leaders within that group. So there becomes like a bit of a leadership vacuum, if you like. And then if you look at FBref, Cardiff ranked bottom 4 in both duels won and progressive passes allowed during the key pressure periods in 24-25. That suggests a team that's really struggling in the high pressure moments, and they're unable to regroup when things start to go against them, whether that's the momentum of the game or a goal or whatever it may be. Our goalkeeper distribution accuracy dropped substantially when under second half pressure last season. That is a sign of maybe the communication within the back line and the organisation not being perhaps where it should be. Look, stats don't say no leaders. There's not really a stat for that. But they do hint at specific issues that a lack of leader and organisation is there. But I want to talk next about the consequences of no leadership. It's not just a vibes issue, right? It's got serious consequences to the day-to-day, the week-to-week effect that it has on the football team. So let's look at what happens when you don't have leadership. Heads will drop quicker after conceding goals. Momentum in games will shift harder, and it will become harder to reverse if you haven't got the characters to really stand up when you're under pressure. Young players start to look a bit lost. They look like they're looking for guidance or support, and then maybe don't get it on the pitch. Managers definitely lose the dressing room faster if you haven't got one or two leaders in that group who are fully behind the manager, pushing the whole squad in the same direction and pushing the whole squad to maintain the levels and the standards that's expected. No one calms things down when maybe the crowd gets a bit frustrated or results aren't going your way. And then what happens over multiple seasons when you've got that is you get what you've got at Cardiff City. You get fan apathy, you get dressing room splits, you get poor second half records, you get panic in key games and high pressure moments. Leaders are not luxury items. They are essential to being a successful group. Next up, we'll look at who can step up at Cardiff City in the now. So can't really talk about new signings because we haven't got any at the moment, and I want to talk about a few maybe can step up. And look, people might not agree with these, and I think some of these people will be surprised at for what I've said previously, but let's have a look. Ryan Wintle, right, he's had a tough 18 months. We all know that. I think some fans fairly feel disrespected by some of his actions, whether it was laughing at Errol Buller or arguing with the fans during a game. But under Brian Barry Murphy, he has a chance to reset because he is vocal. He's got that kind of personality where he's going to be gregarious, and he's going to be like up and speaking, and he's going to be like the life and soul of the group. It's just the kind of guy he is. He is reliable. He's not incredible, but he is reliable. He can do that job as a number 6, and if he buys into a new culture and new standards, he could be a steady influence in this team. Maybe the influence this team needs. I'm a big believer in second chances. Callum Robinson last year, in the pre-season, at the start of the season, completely changed the whole perspective around him and the views around him by coming back with a completely different attitude, motivation, fit, sharp, doing all the right things, and he got the rewards for that, not just by starting games but by scoring in games. This is what I said Rocco Simic should do. He should have come back for this pre-season. He should have been fitter, sharper, stronger than anybody else, because he had worked all the way through the summer. He hasn't done that, and he's looking to force a move. That's up to him. But back to Ryan Wintle, he has a second chance at Cardiff City. I don't know if he wants it or not, if he's looking to move. I don't know. But he has an opportunity to show that he's not a toxic voice in the dressing room, and he can be an effective member in this group. Dare I say, he can show that he can be a leader. He's the right age, he's got a lot of experience, he has some of the qualities that we're lacking. Will he step up? Remains to be seen. I hope he does. I hope he proves me and others wrong who think that he's not the right kind of personality for the dressing room. But as I said, everybody deserves a second chance. They throw that second chance away, then ta-ra. And I could talk about that a little bit, but we won't. Ruben Caldwell, he's still young, but he probably is the most talented footballer in the group. Could he be a lead by example type of guy? Could he be someone who reacts to being given the responsibility, being told, you are our guy, you're the face of this new era of Cardiff City, so go show it? Could that then lead to him finding the consistency, finding the performances, finding the quality and the presence that we all feel that he's probably got? I think Brian Barry Murphy has spoken already about him very highly. I think it would be a dividing appointment as a captain, but maybe you could bring him into the leadership group. He's not a teenager anymore. He's played a lot of football. He's a Cardiff fan. He understands what it means to be a Cardiff player. Maybe. Alex Robertson, another one. This is a fascinating one because I think I see a lot of leadership qualities in him, but I'm not sure he's found them for himself yet. He's smart. He's technically excellent. He comes from obviously the highest quality of development backgrounds at Man City. He's worked with Brian Barry Murphy before, so we talked about the voice and being a way to connect the coaches and the team. That could be it. If he stays and he commits, I think he could be a potential leader, whether that's a captain or as part of a leadership group. And look, I know some of these guys are young, but I think that could also indicate the changing of the guard under Brian Barry Murphy to a younger voices, younger team, younger group. And on that front, you've got Joel Bagan. Quite quiet, but resilient, physical, aggressive. I believe that if Brian Barry Murphy empowers him and he plays regularly, he actually might emerge as a surprise leadership voice. I think he's now been at Cardiff, he's the longest serving player. I think he's played a lot of first team football. I think he's got all the qualities to be a centre back or a left back. And I believe that under the right circumstances, in the right atmosphere and environment, with the right coaches, he may be a surprise leader. And then, there's also, you've got your Jack Alnwick, who's vocal, he's a good organiser. The defence looked more comfortable when he was in goal, but I don't think he's guaranteed to start. You've got him and Halworth. Halworth might leave. I think Brian Barry Murphy's going to bring in his own keeper anyway, but he's obviously been a leader within the group. And then you've got like that really outside the box one in Dylan Lawler, who's captained Wales and Cardiff at 21s, 18s, all the way through. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's still only made 2 first team appearances for Cardiff City, but he's definitely, if he stays at the club, a future captain. He is a leader. Now, do I think he should be captain of the first team? Not yet. But I think integrating him as a young voice into a leadership group would be a very clever idea, because he can almost be a representative of the real young guys in that squad, the ones coming up from the academy into the first team who are 17, 18, 19. He can be a voice for them if there's any issues. He can make sure they understand the tactical instructions. So giving him that bit of responsibility also might help him to keep maintaining what looks like a really promising career. So what do we still need in terms of recruitment targets? I've said before, I don't think we need loads, but there is a big elephant in the room. I think we still need to bring in 2 leader type characters, probably 2 experienced leaders. Doesn't mean 30, 32, 27, 28, 29 is fine. They need to have the right qualities and skill sets, but they need to be leaders. They need to be guys who are going to really stand up in those high pressure moments. I think we need 1 at centre back and 1 in the defensive midfield area. Not necessarily old, but vocal, responsible, steady. Think of it like this: a younger Darren Pearce, a left-footed Sol Bamba, a holding midfielder who can direct traffic, dominate second balls, but own that midfield area. You look at some of the best run League One Championship clubs, they've all got really good leaders in that spine of the group, of the team. We need that too. Like I said earlier in this video, it's not a luxury, it's an essential part of building the right balance. In conclusion, it's time to build a new guard at Cardiff City. So what is the verdict? Cardiff City need to build a new leadership group, a new leadership core. They need to bring in some experienced voices. They need to empower the young leaders already there. They maybe need to pick out some potential leaders who don't know they're leaders yet. I think Joe Bagan is one. I think Alex Robertson is one. I think potentially they're good leaders in the future and in the now, but I'm not sure they've realised that yet. It's about getting new voices in that dressing room, but younger voices in that dressing room. Create a dressing room where standards, culture, professionalism and togetherness matter again. The tactical system under Brian Barry Murphy is going to be clever, but the people inside that system and that group, they have to be strong, they have to be brave, they have to be vocal, they need to communicate with each other, the coaches, and they need to be organised. Because tactics do not dig you out of a 1-0, being 1-0 down away at Barnsley. Leaders do. Tactics, or should I say the manager, will set the team up. But the manager cannot do it for the players. The players have to implement the tactics, the game plan, and then they have to deal with the high pressure moments, the difficult moments, the mistakes. They have to deal with that. The manager can help, he can give instructions, but it's the players who've got to deal with it. So they have to do it. We have to find the right characters in the squad and from outside the club to build the right balance and build a new leadership group for this team. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Rebuilding Cardiff City. This was number 7. We've got another episode coming next week, number 8, which is all about integrating the academy players. But let me know what you think. Who do you think should step up this season? Who would your leadership group of sort of 3, maybe 4 players that are already there now? How would you change the dynamic of this dressing room? How would you integrate younger voices? How would you help some players who are potential leaders that don't realise it yet? As always, give me the context. Let me know, who shall we bring in to lead this team through the trenches? This has been episode 7 of Rebuilding Cardiff City. I will see you next time. As always, make sure you subscribed, liked, all that good stuff. If you're not a member, please do become a member. It's like the price of a coffee per month. You get a load of rewards, including early access to merch, to some videos, but most importantly, you get early access to live event tickets. You get 24 hours before they get on public sale to get yours, which is essential because they sell out quick. And they're only going to sell out quicker the more we grow, which is, we are growing quickly. As always, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate the comments and the support. Share it, tell your friends, keep the faith, and I'll see you in a bit.